Well, thank you for listening to us today. We're really here to talk to you about how your company ensures that you're not the greatest product that no one has ever heard of. So we should probably start with some introductions. My name is Selena Adcock, and I run new entertainment at Facebook, which means I deal with clients like Netflix, Hulu, Pandora, Spotify, and with Reed's startup called Masterclass, and I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Hi everybody, my name is Reed. I worked at Netflix previously where I met Selena. Thank you for the invite here. And now I'm at a startup called Masterclass, and our goal is to create the best online classes in the world. So if you're an aspiring singer, you can learn from Christina Aguilera and sing into the mic and see your vocal range and get an infographic about how you can sing. If you're an aspiring writer, you can learn from James Patterson, you can learn from Usher, Dustin Hoffman. So we primarily focus on the arts and sports.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about 4 things: the importance of marketing, marketing foundations, Facebook's role in that, and hacking Facebook. Really, how do you utilize what's available on Facebook? And he can definitely go into more specifics around that. So let's start with understanding marketing, especially as a startup. So out of the top 4 reasons startups fail, 3 of them are due to what? Well, if you saw what I was going to talk about, I kind of gave it away, but it's marketing. Marketing is the top, out of the 4 top reasons startups fail, 3 of them are due to marketing. This is from 32 postmortems of startup failures that was done by Carnegie Mellon that showed these are the reasons why companies fail: ignoring customers, no market need, and poor marketing, which are all part, again, of marketing. So what is marketing in this definition? Before we get too far in this presentation, let's define that, at least what good marketing is. Because when I hear somebody's in marketing or they're in brand, it can mean a lot of different things and a lot of different activities. But really what's key is you have a product that people want or need, people are aware that your product exists, and they have the belief, this is key, that it meets their product need, meets their need well or better than the competition. All 3 of those things are important. Now, for your companies, how many of you would say that today you've answered those 3 questions with a hell yes for your business? You don't have to raise your hand, something you can answer yourself, but it's very key that you're doing those 3 things. So let's explore a few businesses that really failed due to marketing. Who's heard of the Commodore Amiga computer? More than I expected. All right, well, it was launched in July 1985, and at the time, it was better priced than all the competition and had better graphics, sounds, and video than anything out there on the market. Within 10 years, Commodore went bankrupt, and really, if all the case studies say, it was due to poor marketing. At the time they went bankrupt, Byte magazine stated this: the Amiga was so far ahead of its time that almost nobody, including Commodore's marketing department, could fully articulate what it was all about. I think the key lesson here is if you can't tell your customers what your product is about, they won't know. Really, it's a huge failure on Commodore's part. All right, one near and dear to my heart, as I used to work at Coors. Has anyone ever heard of Coors Rocky Mountain Spring Water? Right. So Coors decided to start bottling the water that they use to make the beer because it's amazing water. But it was missing one key ingredient: alcohol. What Coors didn't realize was that nobody wanted to drink water from a company that made their beer, and it honestly watered down their proposition. Do you want watery beer? No. So really, I think, being that I used to be part of Coors, we misidentified a consumer want. Again, back to those fundamentals of marketing. We didn't realize that they don't want watery beer or water from a beer company. And lastly, who's heard of the Color app or ever used the Color app? No one. So in 2011, Color launched, and it was a photo app that allowed for photo streaming based on your location. So you're in a Coliseo watching a concert, you could see everybody's perspective around you. Well, there's a couple things that went wrong here. Well, first they had $41 million in funding and were bankrupt within a year, closed down within a year. But what happened was they were actually going after the incumbent, and at that time, it was Facebook. Facebook had overtaken all photo sharing online ever. Instagram was also launching around that time and had gotten a lot of traction. So I really think the lesson around this one is if you're going to challenge the incumbent, especially a monster like Facebook at that time, you have to do something more than just have product features and benefits. It's really about positioning your product and the product love that you need to build.
All right, so let's talk quickly about the role of marketing, so where it fits into the product. So obviously the cost to produce your product or service is above zero, somewhere above that. And the price you set for that should be above your cost. The role of marketing is really to increase the perceived value of your product as much as possible. So companies like Coca-Cola or Nike that have extremely low cost to produce their products, they have a very high perceived value and they've built a lot of brand equity. So how do you go about doing that? Rather than focusing on your product, you need to focus on your consumers. So don't assume that your product is going to solve everyone's problems. Go out and talk to them. So the great advantage of startups and small companies is you're extremely close to your customers. And the best companies in the world remain close to their customers always. They build out entire teams dedicated to that. So go out and talk to your customers. Get them on the phone. If you don't have customers, go out and talk to people who are in your potential customer segment. If people don't buy your product, talk to them. At Masterclass, if someone abandons their cart, we offer a number of them $50 gift cards to get on the phone with us and to talk about what led to that decision. What was that barrier to entry? What stopped them from buying? And then the people who we do buy, we get on the phone and we learn a lot about them, and we adjust our messaging and our product positioning according to what we've learned from our customers. So some examples of this from Netflix. We found that there was a great opportunity to target moms. And what we learned about moms were that they love to bring the family together. They wanted content that brought their family together and that they could all watch. We learned that they wanted guilty pleasure me time content, a bunch of reality shows, stuff like that. They cared about the safety of their kids and they wanted good content for their kids. They loved that we didn't have commercials, and they thought we had a great price point. So those were 5 distinct value propositions that all went into ads for moms that we could test and see what they responded to the best. So I would ask you to answer this. So most companies talk about the what their products are. Better companies talk about how they produce their products and the quality of it. The best companies in the world have answered why they are solving the problem that they are, why they are producing the products that they are producing. So what gets you excited about your product? Why, like in a much larger sense, existentially, why should your company exist? So at Masterclass, what we want to do is provide access to the best in the world and democratize genius for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're in sub-Saharan Africa or Europe. If you want to learn from the best in the world in a particular field, you can access their knowledge online for a low price.
And Reed, will you tell them a little bit about what Masterclass does and how many people are at Masterclass and what the heck you guys are doing?
So we are only 19 people. We've actually, I think I can say now, we've actually just completed our Series B. We've raised $15 million. And we are working, thank you. And we're working with some of the best people in the world to try and capture their knowledge and disseminate that information.
We'll show some examples of that later because it's pretty cool stuff. So you may wonder why we get up here if we're about to talk about Facebook and talk to you about marketing first. Well, I did 10 years in marketing and now I've been 5 years at Facebook, and what I know is that a shitty idea cannot be solved just by media. And Facebook's role is really the media side of it, right? But if you don't have the idea first, you're wasting your money. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how important that was before we start to tell you all the great things about Facebook. So show of hands, how many of you have used Facebook or Instagram in the last month? Okay, the last week.
Right now.
Today, that was my last question. How many are not paying attention and using Facebook and Instagram right now? Awesome. At least we have some market share. So next question, how many of you have used Facebook or Instagram for your business? How many of you use Facebook or Instagram in a paid way for your business, meaning ads? Awesome. So I'd love to hear, not everybody, it's definitely a disparity between those of you who are using it and those of you who are using it for your business, but what things are working? Just pop up some answers of like what's working for you with Facebook today. Videos? Education videos? Brand awareness? Asking questions? Okay, awesome. Well, we want to get into more specifics about why Facebook and then how to actually utilize it best. I think actually I've even learned from Reed, who's been my client for many years now, or a year and a half now, 2 years,
years.
How to use Facebook better. He educates me all the time. So we really see 1.55 billion reasons for Instagram and Facebook. That's how many people use Facebook monthly. 400,000 of them are on Instagram. And that scale is important. If you're trying to just reach in Puerto Rico, that scale is not as important, but there's a lot of people in Puerto Rico also that are on Facebook. But the other thing is that it's the power of real people. I'm Selena Adcock on Facebook. I live in Oakland. I do yoga. I drink a lot of wine. People know this about me if they know my Facebook page, meaning advertisers also know that about me. We talk about it as meeting the right people with the right message at the right time. The second thing is that people are highly engaged on both Facebook and Instagram. 20% of all time on a mobile device is spent on Facebook and Instagram, which is more than all of those companies you see behind it combined. 1 in every 5 minutes. What I heard the other day is that we actually spend about 3 hours on our mobile every day. If you add that up over a year, you could watch Mad Men, all seasons, all series, 22 times for the year, and that's how much time you spend on your mobile device. It's a bit scary, but 20% of that time, 1 in 5 minutes, is spent with Facebook and Instagram. That also leads to the power of mobile. 85% of all access to Facebook is done on mobile. So only 15% of the time are people actually checking Facebook on their desktop. It's really now a mobile device. And then lastly, based in our roots, the power of social. You know the power of social. We've seen it all. But I just want to reiterate that when you reach me, Selena Adcock in Oakland, who likes wine and yoga, and I like, comment, and share your content, I have influence and power to move your business, and that's a big deal.
All right, so let's talk about some tactics and things that you should be probably testing out on Facebook, whether you're advertising or not. So we'll talk about targeting, reaching the right people, tracking to see whether they're actually converting for you and are of value, and then what creative you should be delivering to them. We'll share a couple examples of best practices there. So it all starts with research. I mentioned before, go out, talk to your customer, find out what makes them unique. What you should really do is start very, very precise about the people, what interests, what clothes do they wear, what are their age, what are their job titles, what makes your customers or market segment unique from the rest of the population, and start to get all of that down. A lot of that targeting is available on Facebook. And hopefully what you'll find are some very interesting insights into customers that you didn't expect to find. So one example of that is if you're selling high-end cameras, you should actually be targeting birders, people who are ornithologists and they love birds. They have a lot of disposable income, free time, and they spend money on cameras. It's not necessarily intuitive, so you should be going out and doing research. Facebook has a free tool, the Insights tool. You need to create an ad account, but you don't need to pay anything to use it. You can start putting in interests and custom audiences, and we'll get to those shortly. So when you're launching your product or company and you don't have much traffic to your website, you really want to start with these interests and these demos and things that make your customer unique that you've identified and put into Facebook. Over time, what you should be doing is capturing everyone from your website and letting Facebook do a lot of the work for you via lookalikes and OCPM bidding, which we'll get into. So what are custom audiences? How many of you guys are using custom audiences right now? Okay, not enough. So this is something that's free. It doesn't cost any money. You can match people who visit your website, whose email lists you have. If you have telephone numbers or you have device IDs from your mobile app, you can match those to Facebook and get insights via the Insights tool. You can target those people on Facebook, and you can build lookalikes from them.
I think one of the biggest advantages there is the insights. If you don't know who's visiting your website, you can take that information, match it to Facebook, and we can tell you who those people are. Huge way to understand who your customers are.
So pixels, get them on your website. Use Google Tag Manager. It makes it easy. Once you have Tag Manager set up, you can place any pixels you want, no matter what partner you're working with. That's what we use at Masterclass. It's great. Okay, so
Reed and I were actually just talking about this. I'm still surprised how many big companies aren't using pixels in the way that they should, and how many conversations I have with my clients weekly about the plumbing to really set up Facebook so you're using it at 100%.
So here we have set up like a very simple conversion flow. There's a pair of shoes for $500. People add them to their cart, and then they purchase, right? These are steps of value. Obviously, the person who's purchased, they have monetary value. They are your customer. To the cart, they've expressed, they're right on the cusp of buying, so they have more value than someone who's just looked at the product page. You can use pixels to match those people who've looked at that pair of shoes and reach them both on desktop and on mobile because Facebook syncs their unique ID, and now on Instagram as well. And of course, for the cart, like you should definitely just be buying those impressions. Should be cheap, they've expressed their interest, definitely be reaching those people. For the people who've purchased, those are your customers. Those are the people you want to match and analyze. You want to understand what makes them unique, what makes them different, and let Facebook use lookalikes to find people that are very similar to them. So lookalikes, for the people who don't know, once you've matched that list, you can build an audience of the top 1 to 10% in any given country. So you can let Facebook do the work and find the top 1% of people that look like your customers in Puerto Rico, for example. So in addition to matching people on Facebook, obviously you want to use pixels for reporting. When you serve ads, you want to see where they go through the conversion funnel, and also use it for optimization. So OCPM bidding lets you put a pixel at the conversion point on your website and then tell Facebook, you know what, I'm willing to spend X number of dollars to get people to buy my product. So in this case, for a $500 pair of shoes, maybe you say that's worth $300 to me. So put in that $300 bid, and within the audience that you have defined, whether you're targeting a lookalike, whether you're targeting interests, whatever you've set up, Facebook will deliver impressions to the people who look most similar to people who are hitting that pixel. So let Facebook do a lot of the work for you. So let's quickly go through best practices. These are things, whether you're spending or not, I highly recommend trying. Get pixels on your website, track those people, match them, understand where they are in the conversion funnel. Start very small, those things that make your customers or market segment unique. Of course, that depends on your budget. If you have a huge budget, start large. And then find out who your customers are and start matching those guys. Remarket to people, exclude purchasers. Don't sell the same thing to the same person twice unless it's toilet paper or renewable. Use OCPM bidding, figure out what that conversion point is, and then tell Facebook what the value is. If it's a mobile app install, Facebook's unbelievable at finding people who are going to like your app. And then as you grow, match people and use lookalikes. So I think the best practice now is a custom audience of 10,000 people to build a lookalike off of, but you can start much, much smaller than that. So if you only have a few purchasers or people who look like they're valuable to you, you can still try it out.
Yeah, I think the minimum is 20. Do I have that right? I'm not even gonna say.
Yeah. I think it's 20 match to use. So how many of you guys saw this picture on Facebook? Okay, all right, a decent number.
And you're here. Amazing conversion right there.
Wonderful. So we used 3 ways to target people. We targeted people who were connected to the H3 page, so connection targeting, anyone who liked the page. We put pixels on the H3 website, so anyone visiting the website we targeted. And then Carlos was also kind enough to give us a list of emails. And we matched those to Facebook and targeted as well. So
all privacy safe, don't worry.
Yes.
Hashed.
That's right. Aggregate anonymous, you're secure. So always be testing, right? You should work backwards from your budget. If you have a very small budget, then don't test too many things. Really try and put your best foot forward. As your budget grows or you're seeing profitability and ads working for you, obviously you can start to test more things. What I would recommend doing is thinking about, based on your expected conversion rate, let's say it's 1% for an e-commerce site, think about how many conversions you actually need to be confident that an audience is good or bad, that creative is good or bad. And then usually maybe that's 5 or 10 conversions in a given audience, which is not statistically significant, but it's directional. And then say, okay, well, how many, based on that and what I expect my CPCs to be, how many different segments can I actually go out and test? But always be testing.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the testing you guys have done at Netflix? I know we had some great debates about how to market Narcos and Friends in the past.
Yes. So what's really interesting is that on Facebook, people are that's their public persona. So for the Friends TV series that we were advertising on Netflix, we looked at the page and we said, 70 to 80% of fans of Friends are female, so we're going to skew in that direction, but let's test men as well. Well, it turns out that men love Friends more so than women, and at least according to people who are converting and actually watching the show. And so they were so effective that we actually shut off female targeting. But we didn't know that until we actually started putting ads out into the market.
Yeah. And we debated it with Narcos also, and one of the things that we talked about was, if you look at Facebook and crime shows like Narcos, who's watched Narcos, by the way? It's incredible. It's usually 50% female and male, so Netflix don't just target males, think about it across the board. So we use the information to be able to make those informed decisions.
Oh, can I go back? Okay, so most people don't pay enough attention to creative. So I would say at minimum, invest 10% of your media budget in your creative. So the best brands in the world, the Nikes, the Coca-Colas, they invest 20% plus in their creative production, and that's why their ads look fantastic. They also do a lot of testing with those, but don't neglect creative. It's half the equation, reaching the right people, and then giving them the right message. So a couple examples about creative and what you might want to try. Here's for the show Peaky Blinders. We got a great review, and we took a snippet of that review, an accolade, and we put that into our creative. So if you have customers saying great things about you, if you ask a friend, hey, can I use a quote? If you get a great article about you in some publication, you can use that in your creative. Test that out. What you can also do is don't drive to your website, drive to that great review or article. So actually at Masterclass, we've gotten some great write-ups on some of our classes. We send traffic to those articles, and then using Facebook tracking, we see whether they eventually come to our website on their own and purchase. Everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. This is for House of Cards. We didn't use any celebrities. We didn't use any clips from the show, but what did we do? We stopped people. They were looking through their news feed, and they stopped and said, oh my God, what is this about? So an important message here is try and get people's attention. You have, what do you call it, a 3-second?
3-second audition to really get somebody's attention on Facebook and invite them to engage with you more. Really, as you think about that thumb moving that news feed up and down.
Yep. So you have about 3 seconds to grab people's attention, and then this is like a tried and true tactic in sales, which is don't give people enough information to make a decision at the outset. If you're sending an email, if you're putting an ad on Facebook, intrigue them, but get them clicking over and giving your message there. Don't give people enough information to say, I want to buy, I don't want to buy. You're paying for the impressions. It's not like Google. You're not paying for the clicks. Okay, this looks like a shitty ad, right? Like, how many people think that this is a good ad? Nobody. All right, so this looks like a shitty ad. This ad worked wonderfully for a gaming client. People didn't know what the mobile app was for, but they clicked on it because it looked like it was coming from something. They didn't know what it was. It looked like maybe like a kid had drawn it. They weren't sure. So it looks like user-generated content on Facebook because the context is friends and family and the things that you follow. Try things that don't necessarily look professional. Try things that look like they could be from your friends and see if that works for you. In a lot of cases, they do. So a lot of e-commerce, what they find is they'll do incredible photo shoots with great photographers and models, and what works better? Stuff that looks like it's coming from your friends.
Yeah, especially around apps, fun apps, interactive apps, using anything that your users are creating with that app. We've seen a lot of success across the board with that.
All right, this is an ad from Masterclass for the James Patterson writing class. Stop reading this, start writing. So basically what we're doing is we're not talking about a class. We know that these people love to write, and instead they're spending time on Facebook. So they're on Facebook on their feed, and we're like telling them exactly what to do. Stop, start. Stop messing around in your Facebook feed and start writing. So they click through and say, oh yeah, I should be writing because I aspire to write a novel or a book or whatever. And so with that said, stop listening to us. Go start building.
And this website up here is a great resource. It answers tons of questions about Facebook, Pixels, what we do, how to get started. You can actually connect with somebody there via that website and our small business team that can help you if you have questions. But we'll also be at the mentor booth between 3 and 4 if you have any further questions for us.
Questions? Okay, so exactly how does Pixels work?
What are Pixels? Okay.
Okay, so a pixel is essentially matching you to so when ads follow you around the internet, right? Like you've gone and shopped somewhere and then you see that ad, there's been a cookie set in your browser. So it basically just says, and it's the same thing, people are afraid of cookies, but cookies are also very good. It's the reason why you don't have to enter in your login details every time you refresh a window. that's an authentication cookie. And it lets you, remembers that you are safe, this computer's okay, you are logged in. So that's how cookies work. On your website, so what I would recommend using is Google Tag Manager. You implement that once on your website, Google Tag Manager, and then from then on, anything that you want to place on your website, you don't need a developer for. You can just copy and paste directly from Facebook, and if someone visits a particular page, that pixel will fire and say, hey, Facebook, this person came to my website, and if Facebook says, hey, they're also logged into Facebook, they'll match them.
Yep, it's a piece of code that you put on your website to help find your customers and be able to track them in other places.
Amazing. Anybody else? Any questions?
It looks like there's one. Oh. Go ahead.
Does Facebook allow third-party click tracking?
Do we have third-party click tracking? Is that what you asked?
Allow.
Some, yes, not all. Yeah.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just use urchin track, Google UTM tags, I would recommend. Like Google Analytics, it's free. Set up tracking with Google, so like any click tracking, that's your own, your third party. Obviously, there's other analytics software that you can use that's third party. Facebook also tracks click and view-based conversions within their dashboards for ads. And then, I would recommend just using UTM tags with Google Analytics.
Yeah. And the pixel allows you to track clicks.
Yeah. And most third-party reporting, it will pull in your UTM tags as well, so you can use it for analytics or whatever you're using for reporting.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you, Selena. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, you guys.